Don't worry if you've never touched a trowel before, we're going to break down every single step, from dreaming up your garden to harvesting your first delicious tomato or beautiful bloom. Think of this video as your ultimate gardening blueprint. No extra instructions needed, so grab a comfy seat, maybe a notebook, and let's get our hands dirty, metaphorically for now. Our journey starts with planning your garden. This is like drawing the map before an epic treasure hunt. First, determine your goals. What do you want to grow? Think about it. Do you dream of fresh, juicy tomatoes for your salads? Maybe vibrant sunflowers to brighten your day? Or fragrant herbs to spice up your cooking? Knowing what you want to grow helps you choose the right plants and plan your space. Maybe you want a mix of everything. That's totally cool too. Just keep your taste buds and your eyes in mind. Assess your space. This is kind of like figuring out where to build your dream fort. You need to look at the area you have available. Is it a big backyard, maybe a sunny balcony? Even a windowsill can totally be a mini garden. Now pay attention to the amount of sunlight your chosen spot gets. Plants are a lot like us. They need sunshine to thrive. Full sun means your spot gets at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. Think of it as a full day at the beach for your plants. Many veggies and flowering plants really love full sun. Partial shade means your spot gets about 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight, often with some shade during the hottest part of the day. Some plants prefer a little afternoon break from the sun. And then, full shade means your spot gets less than 4 hours of direct sunlight. But don't worry, there are still plants that love shady spots like hostas and some leafy greens. Next up, observe the drainage patterns. After it rains, does water sit in puddles for a long time in your chosen spot? That's not good. Soggy roots are unhappy roots. Good drainage means the water soaks in, and any extra water just flows away. Now consider your climate. Think about the weather where you live. Is it hot all year round, or does it get freezing in the winter? You really need to know your local growing season. This is the time of year when the weather is just right for most plants to grow. You also need to know the average frost dates. That's the last time it usually gets below freezing in spring and the first time in fall. This helps you figure out when it's safe to plant and when you might need to protect your plants. Your local agricultural extension office or even just a quick online search for your area can give you this info. Now for the fun part, deciding how you want to grow. In-ground beds are the classic way. You're planting directly into the existing soil in your yard. It's great for larger spaces, but it does mean you need to work with the soil you already have. Raised beds are kind of like building big containers filled with awesome soil. These are fantastic for smaller spaces if your existing soil isn't great, or if you want easier access without bending over too much. You'll need to build the frames. You can use wood, bricks, or other materials, and then fill them with good quality soil. Container gardening is perfect for balconies, patios, or even indoors. You grow your plants in pots and containers. Just make sure your containers have drainage holes at the bottom so the water can escape. And vertical gardening, that's all about growing upwards. You can use walls, trellises, or special vertical planters to grow things like leafy greens, herbs, and even some vining plants like cucumbers. It's a super space-saving option. Okay, so step 5 is all about sketching your design. Time to get creative. Just grab a piece of paper and sketch out how you want your garden to look. Think about where your pathways will be so you can walk around without stepping on your plants. Also, consider how much space each plant needs. You can always check the seed packet or plant tag for that info. They'll tell you. And if you need any structures like trellises to support climbing plants, make a note of that too. This little planning session helps you use your space wisely and honestly makes your garden look super organized. Alright, step 6 is all about the budget. Let's talk money. Gardening doesn't have to break the bank, but you'll need to consider the cost of soil, plants like seeds or seedlings, tools such as a trowel and a watering can, and, other supplies. Decide how much you're comfortable spending, and moving on to step 7, start small. If this is your first garden, don't try to grow everything at once. Seriously, it's much better to start with a small, manageable area. A small in-ground bed, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, or a couple of raised beds, like 4 feet by 4 feet or 4 feet by 8 feet, are great starting points. You can always expand later once you get the hang of it. Now it's time for preparing the site. This is, kind of like getting your building ground ready for your dream house. Alright, first things first, you need a clean slate. So go ahead and remove any grass, weeds, those pesky unwanted plants, rocks, or any other junk from your chosen garden spot. Next up is soil testing. Think of this as a checkup for your soil. It tells you what kind of soil you have, like, is it sandy and feels gritty, clay that feels sticky or loamy, which is the ideal crumbly mix, and also its pH level. Now pH is basically a measure of how acidic or alkaline your soil is. Most veggies and flowers, they like a slightly acidic to neutral pH, somewhere around 6.0 to 7.0. You can buy simple soil test kits at most garden stores, or you can contact your local agricultural extension service. They often offer more detailed soil testing services. So, knowing your soil really helps you figure out what it needs to grow healthy plants. Okay, now let's talk about improving the soil. Healthy soil is like a yummy, nutritious meal for your plants. So, let's start by amending with organic matter. Think of this as adding vitamins to your soil. Organic matter includes things like compost, which is just broken down food scraps and yard waste, and aged manure, which is well-rotted animal poop. Honestly, it's not as gross as it sounds, promise. These materials improve the soil's structure, making it easier for roots to grow, help with drainage so it's not too soggy, and add important nutrients for your plants. Just spread a layer of about 2 to 4 inches of compost or manure over your garden area, and then dig it in with a shovel or garden fork. Now, if you noticed earlier that water tends to puddle in your garden spot, you'll want to address drainage issues. For small areas, you can try mixing in materials like perlite, those little white balls you sometimes see in potting mix, or coarse sand to help the water drain better. For really soggy areas, building raised beds is often the best solution, since you're basically creating a new growing space with good drainage. And hey, try to avoid planting directly in low spots where water collects. And finally, if your soil test told you that your pH is too high or too low, you can adjust it. To raise the pH and make it less acidic, you can add lime. To lower the pH and make it more acidic, you can add sulfur. Always follow the instructions on the product packaging and the recommendations from your soil test results. You don't always need to adjust the pH, so that soil test is super important. Alright, now let's level the planting area. Just grab a rake and use it to make the surface of your garden bed relatively flat. This step is super important because it helps with even watering, making sure all your plants get what they need. Fantastic, our garden bed is prepped and ready for its new residence. Now let's talk about planting. So, first up, choose your plants. Remember those goals we set at the beginning? Well, now it's time to pick the actual plants. You'll want to select varieties that will thrive in your climate, the amount of sunlight your garden gets, and the type of soil you have, or have improved, of course. If you're just starting out, I recommend trying some easy-to-grow options like lettuce, beans, radishes, zucchini, and herbs like basil and mint. You have two main choices for getting your plants. First, seeds. These are like tiny plant babies in a package. They're usually less expensive, and you get to experience the whole growing process from start to finish. Just make sure to follow the instructions on the seed packet carefully for when to plant, how deep, and how far apart. Second, seedlings, also known as transplants. These are young plants that have already been started for you. They give you a head start and are especially great for plants that take a long time to grow from seed. You can find them in small pots at garden centers. Okay, so following planting instructions is super important. Whether you're planting seeds or seedlings, always read the instructions on the seed packet or the plant tag that comes with the seedling. They'll tell you the planting depth, that's how deep to put it in the soil, the spacing, which is how far apart to plant them so they have enough room to grow, and the best timing for planting in your area. Next up, plant at the right time. Remember those frost dates we talked about earlier? You really need to plant your seeds or seedlings at the right time of year. For most spring and summer crops, like tomatoes and peppers, you'll want to plant after the last frost in spring. For fall and winter crops like kale and spinach, you'll plant a few months before the first frost in fall. And again, your local growing information is key. And finally, water immediately. As soon as you've planted your seeds or seedlings, give them a good drink of water. This helps settle the soil around their roots. Mulch is kind of like a cozy blanket for your garden bed. It's basically a layer of material you spread around your plants. Some good options are straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips. Mulch does some amazing things. It helps the soil stay moist, so you don't have to water as often. It blocks sunlight from reaching weed seeds, which means, fewer weeds. And it keeps the soil temperature more even. Just apply a layer that's about 2 to 3 inches thick, but make sure to keep it a few inches away from the stems of your plants to prevent them from rotting. Alright, our little plant babies are in the ground. Now, let's talk about keeping them happy and hydrated with watering. So, water deeply and less frequently. Imagine taking a long, satisfying drink instead of lots of little sips. Plants are just the same. When you water, make sure to water deeply so that the moisture soaks down into the root zone where the roots are growing. This actually encourages the roots to grow deeper, which makes the plant stronger and more able to handle dry spells. And you don't need to water every single day unless it's super hot and dry. So try to water the soil around the base of your plants rather than, just spraying water all over the leaves. Wet leaves can actually lead to fungal diseases, which nobody wants in their garden. You can use a watering can, a soaker hose, that's a hose with tiny holes that slowly release water, or even a drip irrigation system, which is basically a network of tubes that deliver water directly to the roots. Now, how often you need to water really depends on the weather. It'll be more often when it's hot and sunny, your soil type, since sandy soil dries out faster than clay soil, and of course the type of plants you're growing. A good way to check is to just stick your finger about an inch deep into the soil. If it feels dry, well, it's time to water. Most plants need about 1 inch of water per week, whether it comes from rain or your watering can. The best time to water, honestly, is in the morning. This gives the leaves time to dry out during the day, which really helps prevent diseases. If you water in the evening, the leaves stay wet all night, and that just creates a perfect environment for problems. Now let's talk about giving your plants the nutrients they need to grow big and strong with fertilizing. First, understand plant needs. Just like us, different plants need different amounts of vitamins or nutrients. Plants need things like nitrogen for leafy growth, phosphorus for roots and flowering, and potassium for overall health. Second, soil test as a guide. Remember that soil test we did? It can also tell you if your soil is lacking any important nutrients. This helps you choose the right fertilizer. So when it comes to fertilizers, you actually have a couple of main choices. First up, organic fertilizers. These come from natural sources like compost, aged manure, bone meal, which is basically ground up animal bones and is rich in phosphorus. and fish emulsion, which is a liquid fertilizer made from fish. Organic options release nutrients slowly, and, yeah, they also help improve your soil health over time. Now, inorganic fertilizers are a bit different. These are synthetic man-made fertilizers, and they usually provide nutrients a lot more quickly. If you go with these, make sure to look for a balanced fertilizer. The numbers on the package, like 10-10-10 or 5-10-5, tell you the percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Alright, let's talk about how you actually apply fertilizer because it really depends on the type you're using. There's broadcasting, which you do before you plant. Just sprinkle the fertilizer evenly over the soil and then mix it in. Then there's banding, where you place the fertilizer in a narrow strip just a few inches away from where you're going to plant your seeds or seedlings. For plants that are already growing, you might want to try side dressing, which means sprinkling the fertilizer along the sides of the plants. And finally, there's foliar feeding, where you spray a liquid fertilizer directly onto the leaves. Just be careful with this method and honestly, always follow the product instructions. It's super important to follow the instructions on the fertilizer packaging very carefully. Too much fertilizer can actually harm or even kill your plants. It's kind of like giving them too much candy. Not good at all. Now, as for when to fertilize, generally it's a good idea to do it when you first plant your seeds or seedlings. Then, you might need to fertilize again during the growing season, especially for plants that produce a lot of fruits or flowers. Oh, and make sure to avoid fertilizing when plants are dormant, which is usually in the winter when they're not actively growing. Okay, let's talk about keeping unwanted guests and sickness away from our precious plants with pest and disease control. Prevention is key. The best way to deal with pests and diseases is to prevent them in the first place. Healthy plants are much less likely to get sick or be attacked by bugs. So, make sure you give your plants enough space when planting. Remember those spacing instructions? Also water them properly right at the base and ensure there's good air circulation around them. Next up, monitor regularly. Become a plant detective. Regularly check your plants for any signs of trouble. Look under leaves, on stems, and even in the soil. Keep an eye out for pests like tiny bugs such as aphids, caterpillars munching on leaves, or those slimy snails. Also watch for signs of diseases like spots on the leaves, powdery mildew, which looks like white powder, or wilting. Okay, so before you do anything, you really need to figure out what the problem is. Knowing if it's aphids or, say, a fungal disease will help you choose the right solution. There are lots of online resources and gardening books out there that can help you identify common problems. Now let's talk about Integrated Pest Management, or IPM for short. This fancy term just means using a combination of methods to deal with pests and diseases in a way that's as safe and effective as possible. So, here are a few approaches you can try. First up, physical barriers. Think of these as plant protectors. Row covers are lightweight fabric that you can put over your plants to keep bugs away, and netting can protect fruits and veggies from birds. Next, there's handpicking. Sometimes, honestly, the simplest solution is the best. If you spot a few caterpillars or snails, just pick them off and drop them in a bucket of soapy water. Gross, but super effective. Then, we've got beneficial insects. These are the good guys of the garden. Insects like ladybugs eat aphids, and lacewings go after other pests. You can sometimes even buy these helpful insects to release in your garden. And finally, organic pesticides. If things get really bad, you can try organic pesticides, which are made from natural ingredients. Neem oil and insecticidal soap are common examples. Just always read and follow the instructions on the product very carefully, and really think of these as a last resort. For diseases, good air circulation is crucial, so don't plant things too close together. Also, try to avoid getting the leaves wet when you water. If you see a diseased leaf or stem, remove it promptly to prevent the disease from spreading. And hey, if the problem gets severe, you might need to use an organic fungicide. Again, just be sure to follow the product instructions. Now for a task that might not be the most glamorous, but it's super important: weeding. Regular weeding? Well, weeds are like the bullies of the garden. They steal water, nutrients, and sunlight from your precious plants. So get into the habit of regularly checking your garden and pulling out any weeds you see, especially when they're small. They're just so much easier to remove when they haven't had a chance to establish deep roots. Mulch helps too. Remember that mulch we talked about? It's not just for keeping moisture in, it also acts like a weed barrier, blocking sunlight from reaching weed seeds in the soil, which helps prevent them from sprouting. Hand pulling is, honestly, the most effective way to get rid of weeds in most home gardens. Just make sure you try to get the whole root so they don't, grow right back. The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. It's time for harvesting. So, knowing when to harvest, this is where your research really comes in handy again. Different plants have their own signs of ripeness. Like, for example, tomatoes will be fully colored and just a little bit soft to the touch. Leafy greens are usually good to go when they reach a certain size, and yeah, seed packets and plant guides will give you those specific instructions on when and how to harvest each of your plants for the best flavor and yield. So, harvest regularly. For many plants, especially things like beans, zucchini, and some flowers, harvesting regularly actually encourages them to produce more. It's kind of like the plant is saying, okay, they took those, I need to make more. Our garden is built and producing, but the journey doesn't end here. Let's talk about ongoing maintenance to keep things thriving. Pruning is next. Some plants, like tomatoes and certain flowering shrubs, really benefit from pruning. This means carefully removing certain parts of the plant, like dead or diseased branches, or even just shaping the plant to encourage better growth and production. It's always a good idea to research the specific pruning needs of your plants. So, staking and support are super important here. Tall plants like tomatoes and, climbing plants like cucumbers, they're really going to need stakes, cages, or maybe even trellises to help support their growth and keep them off the ground. This helps prevent damage and honestly just makes harvesting so much easier. Deadheading. For many flowering plants, removing the spent flowers, the ones that have finished blooming, is called deadheading. This often encourages the plant to produce more flowers. Soil enrichment. Keep that soil healthy. Every year, it's a good idea to add more compost to your garden beds. This replenishes nutrients and improves the soil structure. Think of it as giving your garden a yearly boost of vitamins. Crop rotation. If you're growing vegetables, especially in the same spot year after year, it's a good idea to practice crop rotation. This means changing where you plant different types of vegetables each year. For example, don't plant tomatoes in the same spot 2 years in a row. This helps prevent soil-borne diseases and nutrient depletion. And there you have it, your complete guide to building your very own garden from start to finish. Remember, gardening is a journey of learning and discovery. Don't be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, we all do. And most importantly, enjoy the process of nurturing life from a tiny seed to a beautiful plant. So get out there, choose your spot, get your hands a little dirty, and watch the magic happen. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more gardening tips and tricks. Happy gardening, everyone.